Welcome, Corri Evans, to the ABCs of Leadership.
Thank
A to
you.
Z, we got the Alpha and Omega, and you are finishing us up here with this round with Z. Please take this opportunity to introduce yourself and the letter Z. Tell us what your word of the day is.
Hi. Well, if you don't know me, I am Corey E. I am a connect. E is for Evans. I'm a connected, joyful, loving leader. I stand. Uh, I stand for equality, honesty, and freedom. Z is my letter, and it is for Zest. And I think it's so appropriate. I signed up for today because today's my 52nd birthday. And I am a very, my family sees me as zestful. I see myself as zestful. I have a zest for life. I have, I have tapped into this like traits of youthful living recently and by recently, I mean in the past few years of my life, after a lot of obstacles and a lot of, uh, just blocks in my life. And so I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about what I feel Zest is and how it's impacting my life and how it's impacting my leadership and how it's helping me show up in my day to day. So thank you for having me.
I love it. I am so honored. Thank you so much, Corri. Wow, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful opportunity for us. So we get to like wrap up this season with Zest. And so you just tell us more about, you said you people see you as zestful. You love to bring zest. It helps you with your leadership. All those things are like, let's dig into the zest of leadership.
Well, I almost said I think. I keep going back to I'm not aligned with think anymore, and it's part of my habits, right? Like we're all working through, so that's all part of it is just recognizing that we get to transform, we get to transition, we get to constantly improve ourselves, we get to learn from the people around us and bring something different to the room. I've always been a leader, and I from a very young age was always somebody who stood up for others, who brought energy into the room. I think I always chose my energy, and that was a message we got here at HCL and in this program. Um, Choosing energy for me has been a piece of my personality that people have recognized. I haven't always used my powers for good, right? So for me, it's been a recognition of it's okay to slow down. Zestful can mean calm. Zestful can mean choosing my energy. Zestful can mean knowing when to burst energy onto the scene and knowing when to just listen and knowing when sometimes I'm writing furiously. Uh, Sometimes I'm reflecting. I'm always reflecting upon the characteristics of youthful living and zest and their benefits in my leadership life, in my parenting, in my with my spouse, with the teams that I lead in business. Um, and I think people think of zest as sort of a young people trait, right? Like, but my grandmother was probably the first person that showed me what zest looks like. Like she had this glow. She had this beautiful, youthful, zestful glow. And she was always talking about forgiveness and her relationship with God and how we get to love everyone. She's the first person in my life that made me feel unconditionally loved.
Wow.
And I really think that when I go back to the gratitudes, the place where I come from, which is love, is like she just comes right. Her name is Aura Bell, and I called her Grammy Bell. And she taught me that no matter what, there were so many of us in the family. She had four kiddos, and they had kiddos, like lots of cousins, and we had a big family, and there was always something going on. But I remember her always just being this quiet leader who just kept us together. She was always inspiring creativity in us. And she was always talking about forgiveness because we were always doing something that required forgiveness, right? As children and as people and as humans, we were always like getting in our own way and not remembering who we are and not remembering like that love at our core is everything and that you get to choose your energy. And when you show up to the family meal or you show up to the mirror, that you get to look yourself in the eye, be authentic with yourself, create laughter, create creativity, like bring the best version of yourself to every situation. And that's something that like stays with me so deeply. And I had forgotten that recently. And it's just been beautiful to hear the words choose your energy here and remember that Grammy's messages are still important. They're still everywhere. Like the core messages that I grew up with this beautiful human in my life, just stay with me. And it shows me it isn't about physical strength. It isn't about emotional strength, but those things are required for endurance, right? And effective living. And so in the last 2 years, I put on a lot of weight in my middle like years of life. And I was very sad, depressed, wasn't actually living my life, choosing my energy at all. And I became like a shadow of myself. And I wasn't parenting the way that I could have, because I wasn't showing up for myself. I don't think that I really looked in the mirror and saw love anymore. I was disappointed in myself. I was disappointed in my failures. I was counting. I wasn't doing the math and counting the things that were going well. I was only really focusing on those things that weren't going well. And I was really giving myself, some serious shit about it. Excuse my language, but I was just beating myself up. And I don't know. I think that I've always had this spark in me that's like, Corri, you were meant to share your story. You're meant to inspire people. Like when I'm connected, I definitely people feel loved, and that inspires joy. And that leads to zest, because when you're joyful and you're loving and you're connected, what are you doing? Something awesome, right? It doesn't even, whatever that is, like it's something awesome. And it's something that's so energy filling and enthusiastic. And it could be for a cause, but it could be also just for life. It could just be for like feeding your cat or nurturing your garden or loving your shadow, loving your shadow, loving that part of you that isn't zestful, loving those nerds that are not zestful, right? Like just remembering that our shadows are part of us.
For the wider audience that doesn't understand the language of nerds, so that would be like the shadow part of yourself. Parts that you are trying to avoid and stay away from, maybe, and just turning that to love.
Yeah, just I call like those voices in your head that are like, they're just, there is no separation between our darkness and our light. And I finally recognized that. And that has allowed me to love that part of myself and be out, forgiving myself, living my best life, constantly shifting when I find myself, feeling like there's sand burying me a little bit. Instead of putting my head in the sand now, I look around a little bit more and I reach for the people that inspire me. And I remember, because everyone around me is zestful as well. And they have their moments too. And when we connect, we get to share love, we get to share joy, and we get to celebrate each other and walk each other through all the things that we could possibly walk through. I guess all of life's disappointments can turn into something vibrant, energized, and exciting because we've got through it together, and we get to like chalk one up to, I stepped over that. I crossed through that difficult moment into something beautiful and light filled. And That's amazing.
It is. Thank you so much, Corri. I love this. This is really beautiful because this, to me, this centers back around our adventure on Earth, right? It's like we come here, we take on these limitations, we go through the valleys of the shadow of death, and we have a shepherd, right? Like we're never alone. And I really heard that, like one of the last points that you had said is like when you're in those moments of darkness, maybe you're now remembering to reach for those people to, it's like, wait a second. Find the zesty people, bring the laughter, change the game. So I just want to, wow, I just want to present some of the things that you talked about because it's just, I see myself in you, right? Like I see a mirror image of, coming to Earth as this like bubbly, bright, excited kid, and then taking on this whole story of, yeah, a real whole story that never really felt like it was me, but I would never give it up because it gave me experience, right? So those hard moments, those like wanna escape moments, darkness,
Yeah.
creating darkness, not showing up as the parent that I could be, just like you had said. I see that in myself and coming through that journey. And I love too that you brought in your grandma. It's so cool. So I got this email this morning. It says, Tarina, your great grandmother's birthday is in November. She celebrates a birthday, November 14th. And it's like from my family history. And it was my grandma's grandma, right?
I share a birthday with your grandma's grandma. How
Isn't that
beautiful is that?
cool? Isn't it? I know. So it's like, wait, I'm family birthday too. That's so cool. And she
Yes.
brought in your grandma, and I'm like thinking, so this is my grandma's grandma, a lady I never met. And yet my grandma was just a woman who, I mean, I just love all the things that you shared about your grandma. And I love thinking about my grandma and just like how she was just so centered, right? She was never frazzled by anything. You could show up
Yeah.
and she just loved you, and you never, you could always go to her cover or her house and find fresh bread or fresh cinnamon buns or fresh tarts or, just like,
Mm.
and it brings me back to this story that I've been talking about since well, for a long time. It's been a long time, but last December I had this moment because we were studying the Old Testament in 2022. And in December we were reading Malachi, right? The end of the Old Testament. And one morning the spirit was like, go downstairs to read your scripture. So I do, I flip open this Bible that I'd been reading in a bit, like it's a big Bible. And like I flipped it open, it flipped open to Malachi 4, 5, and 6. And the message in there is turning your hearts to the fathers and and fathers being your ancestors. Turn your hearts to your grandmas and your grandpas and your great grandmas and great
Oh,
grandpas, and like turn your hearts to the wisdom that they implanted in you. And if there's brokenness there, go back to somebody else's grandma, because I'm sure, if your grandma was broken, I'm sure you could still find something that you got. Because
absolutely.
I've heard people, like a lady actually, Danny Johnson, who was abused by her father, who she later found out was just a stepfather. And, she's like, he did horrific things to her and her family. And eventually she was able to find, step back out of that she came to Christ, and that's how she overcame the abuse and the stories of the abuse, right? Because it's like that message from your grandma. And she's
Yeah,
like, just forgive, right? Just forgive. If you can get into that space of forgiveness, you can change your life. You can change the game, right?
absolutely.
And 52, I
Absolutely.
love this. I just want to put this in there. 52 card pickup. There's 52 cards in a deck, 52 weeks in a year, and it's a great day to play a good game. And
It's a
yeah,
great day to play the game of life and do it with the zest.
yeah,
Do it with Whew, it's so important. I think that my grandma also brings me back to a place. I remember a story about her where my grandfather, like I was a sophomore in high school when my grandfather had a heart attack and passed away. My grandma was only 72, and I say only because she'd never driven. She wasn't allowed to drive. She was driven by my grandfather everywhere. And that day, she was like, time to learn how to drive. And she just did so many incredible things after that. And we would go driving after she learned how to drive. And she had such a lead foot. And I was like, Grammy, like you're driving too fast, you know? And she would just be like, oh no, Corey Faye, like I wasn't allowed to drive for long. I will drive at the pace that now she wasn't like Mario Andretti, like out there, like reckless, but she was definitely driving a little more like it was a little faster than my comfort, given the fact that she was an inexperienced driver, right? But you could see the determination in her eyes. And we would go like visit aunts and uncles, and there was this piece of her that was free in that moment in her life. And I've seen people like lose their spouse at that age, and you just sort of they wait to die. And my grandma was like, time to live, like let's go. And it was the most incredible experience for me at that age of my life. I was I was at the end of my high school years, and I watched this woman transform before my eyes, and she was in her 70s, and she made it look so easy. And she led all of us in prayer every morning. And she always said, I love you, peace, be still. That's something my grandma said all the time, and it just sticks with me. And I just remember, like, anytime I really feel like I'm up against something and that difficult times are in front or are around me, I remember just her spirit of like, let's go, like there's something more for you here. And it whatever it is that's making you feel whatever that is, like all of those things that you feel when you're struggling, like she used to say blink, shift, because we taught her how to drive like
Shift
a
stick.
manual
Yeah,
vehicle.
shift stick, a
My dad was like,
manual. Yeah.
we're not going to give you like an automatic to start, mom. This is my dad. And we literally were like, so she used to say, blink, shift. And so that was her way to remind herself to use the clutch. And I still say that to my children, like, guys, you're just stuck, like blink, shift.
Oh my goodness.
And it's such a powerful message, right? Like, and that's the message of Zest in my family's life, like blink, shift, go on, get out of that spot, like get unstuck, let's go. I love it.
That
Grandma's best message to my entire like family.
Wow, that is so gorgeous. That just like warms my heart because you and I like we didn't know all this was coming out. It's just like we start talking and
Yeah.
all this beauty and this knowledge and this wisdom just like bubbles
Mm,
out into the world for us to share. And it's just so good to be part of this game-changing team. Like
it is.
you showed up and said you're so honored to be in this space, and I'm so honored to have you like and everybody on our team because all those years I was really in denial, right? Like I had like 8 years of really poor mental health, wanting to die, wishing I could exit, knowing I couldn't, like knew it. I just knew because, right? Like I knew my life's not mine to take, but I wish I sure could get out of here. And I had 4 little babies, giving birth to 4 little babies during this whole 8, whatever, however many years it was. And I had friends around me. They were offering help, but I was never honest about what I really needed. And so that's where my authenticity comes from now. I think this was part of our conversation just before we started recording of like how I
Yeah.
show up sometimes super authentic because I saw the destruction to myself and my family and my children of trying to hide what I was really struggling with. And it's like, as I've been open, it's like people like you and like our whole team and people around me in the world, like every day, magical things happen. God sends me the perfect person to pull me out of whatever story or struggle that I'm creating. Like, it's so magical. And my greatest desire of my heart is to not just keep it to myself, but like to share it, right? Like, it's just, my vision is just like for people to be able to feel as much love as I get to feel every day. Like, I get to look in the mirror now after having like lived the story of having been the abusive mom. And I get to look in the mirror and say, wow, Trina, I love you. I can see you. I can see who you are. I just feel your goodness. That's forgiveness. Like, that's what comes through Jesus Christ. That's what comes through your grandma's habit of praying every morning.
Yep.
Whoa,
Peace.
holy
I
cow.
love you.
That's what's coming out today.
Peace. Be
That's the
still.
first time you got me to cry on ABCs of Leadership. ABCZ, yes. Bring this.
I didn't do. That's not from me. That's through me. That's not from me. That's just through me. You know that. And you get to blink,
And
shift,
it's
and so do
rejoicing.
your
Like, I am
babies.
so, all these tears, I am so happy. I am so happy for everything that has happened in my life. I have zero regrets. Every mistake I've ever made, I'm like, I can shift it, and I can do that because of Jesus Christ, because he forgives me. And it's like, oh, well, that's, whatever story I created is not the truth of who I am. And I can wash
Yeah.
that clean so fast. Blink, shift, boom. New
Blink.
moment, new opportunity. I get to be who I came here designed as a daughter of God to be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And for me, that also comes from just getting back in nature. Like, nature's such a huge piece to my existence, and the world is very busy. The world is a very busy place. It's moving very quickly at times, and I think that as a mom and as a wife and as a daughter, as a sister, I have brother-in-laws, so I'm also a sister. I have brothers now, and it's just, our world is like an intricately woven spider web, right? And like, that's how I see, like, the hub is obviously like where we were created, but like everything else that comes out of there, like the enormous trees, the enormous, all the things, nature is brimming with displays that evoke confidence in us, and we get to like draw that in. We get to, like, on our walk, we get to find examples of impossible things that we can't create on our own, that we could never create, that were created for us. And we get to speak quietly to ourselves. And sometimes I just find myself out in nature, and I'm, list 3 things that I'm proud of, and that's part of my blink shift. So to move into the next thing is not just blink and shift, but then what? Like, do I just drive really fast? No, like, that's where Zest for me comes in, because I have a plan. I reach out to my friends. I reach out to the people here that support me. Like, I've never been supported as a unit. Like, there's somebody available all the time to share their soul and their loving essence with us.
Yeah.
And that's so incredible.
Because it's global.
So
You've
incredible.
got people in all time zones, so you can call some.
I know.
And you can call Ricardo or Philza because they're on the other side of the world and they're away.
There's all of us. I have had, and I'm gonna share this idea. So if somebody watches this and they want to like sponsor me and like do this with me, something I've been thinking about with Zest is, because we have somebody on all basic times, like we have somebody at all times. I think, because I'm in the relationship committee, it could be and so are you.
RC,
We get to create something that allows there to be almost like even if it's just a Zoom, and we have enough of us in different time zones for people to like just be present. So if anybody needs something, like, we offer our relationship corner. But I think there's enough of us to create something where there's a 24-hour clock going, and there's enough of us to share that responsibility and be available, truly available at all times. So that's what I'm gonna like like work on so that we get to be present all the time. I think that that could be so impactful, and just no matter what's going on in a person's life. Sometimes we reach out to each other on Vox or we reach out to each other on Zoom, but this is a way for there to be a place that's open. You
Yeah.
know, one Zoom closes and the next one opens up.
Yeah, and
And
just the knowing, right? Like, even just knowing that that's possible, like, just remembering somebody is there, right? It's like,
yeah,
it's like somebody's there. There's an angel to answer your prayer, like, on earth somewhere every day, every minute of every day,
every
right?
minute.
'Cause you can always pray to God.
Yes.
And sometimes you just want a person to talk to, and God can connect you, like, through the spirit with an angel on earth at any time of day. I love that. I just want to, like, um wrap up really quick, but I love your idea. Recently in our church, the youth did a worldwide testimony, 24-hour testimony meeting. So at 7 p.m. in every time zone. And so then it went for 24 hours where the youth bore their testimonies of Jesus Christ and his gospel, and like the building up of the kingdom of God on the earth. In these days, to prepare in preparation for his second coming, right? So it's like, I love your idea.
Yeah.
It's right along, like, yep, I
Yeah.
can see it. I can see it happening. We can do this. So yes. Okay. So just
Yeah.
a minute. I'm gonna give you the last minute, Corri. Just for your closing remarks and your wish for the world, your blessing.
Oh my goodness. I
60 seconds.
I'm just so grateful to have had this moment with you and to have shared. It's my birthday. I'm 52 years old. I'm 52 years young today. I was, I was, I've been working with so many people over the last few years to transform my life, and landed here through my angel, Aaron Atwood, who I was working with health goals on. And at some point in time, when you open your eyes and you look around you, there's somebody watching, there's somebody looking, there's somebody waiting, there's somebody who sees you, who hears you, and who does stand for you. And if you allow yourself the opportunity to be seen and be heard, and then stand for yourself, transformation is